All right, we still have a couple people joining us. So today I am going to be talking about flipped learning. And flipped learning is a type of hybrid or blended learning where you mix both face-to-face time and online time. So I know that some of the scenarios that the university has for fall term would have flipped learning as a part of that, where you might have less in-person time. So you might only do a lecture 1 day per week, and the other 2 days a week you would do online. And that's to reduce the time that people are sitting in classrooms, or to reduce how many people are in classrooms just because of COVID. And so a lot of people will probably be designing hybrid learning for the fall. So that's why I wanted to offer this session, was just to talk about some approaches as well as technology ideas, and also just to brainstorm with people. Like I've said before, I love brainstorming, and I will say that this is a quick session. It's what we call an ignite session. Ignite session means it's fast and I'll cover a lot in a short amount of time. But then what I want to do is just give you ideas and get your mental juices going. And then afterwards, you can brainstorm on your own and then come back to me, submit a service desk ticket anytime, and say that, yeah, the scenarios, they're still working on them. I don't think they've chosen one quite yet. They're just telling everyone the scenarios that they have. I saw that question in the chat. So submit a service desk ticket and say you want to meet with Michelle to brainstorm about technology tools, and me or one of my staff are happy to sit, look at your syllabus, look at your learning goals, and then discuss with you what tools or what technology will fit your unique situation and what you're doing in your classroom. Because even across video tools or screencasting tools or digital poster tools, different tools have different usability or features. And based on what you want to do, one or the other might be a better choice for your situation and your unique classroom. So I definitely like to share that with people. All right, so flipped learning, basically it's a pedagogical approach in which your direct instruction moves from the classroom into individualized independent study. And then that group classroom space, the limited time that you have with them in person, becomes more interactive, advanced learning activities and tasks that students could not do on their own. So as just a quick example, oh, I forgot an R on matter. I gotta fix that. I have 5 presentations today, and I want you guys to know I was up till midnight last night making all my presentations, and so there's some tweaks I need to make on them still for future sessions. So for an example would be, if normally you stand in front of the classroom doing, I used to teach environmental, I've been teaching online since 2005, and I used to teach environmental science and biology and those topics. And so for those, for example, I might, if I did a botany class, I would teach the students about plant families so that we then could actually identify plants in a lab. So what I might do in a flipped learning environment is I would make a lecture video of me talking about the plant family and its characteristics, tell them what chapters to read, maybe even give them a self-assessment quiz inside of the learning management system, give them videos to look at. So they would have all these learning materials that they would do. And then the in-class time, I would actually sit down and apply those things with them, show them how to identify those plants in person together. So I would utilize the in-class time for those interactive group collaborative learning situations that are harder to do online. And I would utilize the online stuff for all the lecture stuff that really they can do on their own. And then keep the class time for questions or advanced learning. So that's just one example of what flipped learning could look like. Research actually has shown that hybrid learning is incredibly effective, and that's because it combines the strengths of both learning environments, and it combines the strengths of all that independent self-study, pre-study that you can do with technology online, along with that interactive in-person advanced learning and support that you can get from the professor in the classroom. So it can be a very powerful learning tool. Some considerations to keep in mind is accessibility. If you have students with any sort of learning challenges or that have accessibility, you have to think about that when you create online training materials. So for example, making sure you have closed captions on lecture videos as one example. Technology access, whatever technology you're asking the students to use in order to do the online portion of the teaching you're doing, you want to make sure they have that access. And on top of that, you want to make sure they have the skills that they can use it. My department, as well as Bob, he runs the service desk, we're ready and willing to support you and your students in technology training, running training sessions. So, that's something you can reach out to us, and we're happy to work with you and help you on. I also recommend that departments talk to each other and use the same technology. So if one professor is going to have students use a screencasting tool or video tool to do video presentations or make presentations, etc., other faculty in the same department should have their students use the same tools. And this way students have less, it's less cognitive overload on the students, right? They're not having to learn how to use 3 different screencasting tools. They're only having to learn how to use one. And it's easier for students across departments or even divisions. So what is well suited to class time? Assignment review, faculty-led activities, group activities, and really complex topics, tasks, and activities that really require you to be there to guide the students, right? Where they really need you there one-on-one to work with them and walk them through or explain things to them or guide them in sort of scaffolded learning. So what's well suited to online? Media presentations, video lectures, quizzes and self-assessment, having remote guests. There's, as you all I'm sure use, there's all these videos on YouTube and elsewhere of experts in the field. You might have students watch those prior to coming to a group activity that you do in the classroom. Training and practice skills, reading, writing, and projects that they're working on and will present in the classroom. These are all things that work great to online and independent work outside of the classroom. I want to say that I taught science. I was faculty member in science, biology, environmental science, and botany for many years. And in the sciences, they've really always been doing flipped learning. It never was called that, but it was always that. Even back when I was doing my bachelor's at University of Washington in the 90s, my science classes were flipped learning. We were required to prepare for lab prior to arriving to lab. We had to read material. We had to look at information. We had to answer questions. We had to study topics. We had to have pre-lab questionnaires filled out before we arrived at the lab. And that was so that the lab time could be as fruitful and effective and efficiently used as possible. And so, science has always been doing basically flipped learning, where students are required to do prep work prior to showing up, stuff that they can easily do independently and should, so that once they arrive in class, you could do hands-on applied learning instead and use the class time for that instead of just lecturing to them. Let them study the lecture materials prior, and during that limited time, especially if in the fall in those scenarios you have less face-to-face than you would have, then you're really going to want to capitalize on that face-to-face time. You're going to want to use it as efficiently as possible. So make video lectures and have them watch the lectures before they show up, and use the class for those interactive things that you want to do with them. So now let's talk a bit about technology and technology tools that you can use to do flipped or hybrid / blended learning. There's so many names, but it's the same type of learning approach. So video is very, very, very important. We just got, actually, I'm listed in one of the other things that'll come up, but we now have a Camtasia license for all faculty across the university. So if you go to the ITS website, you can get access to having a free version of Camtasia and download it on your computer. And it is a very powerful video editing software. And we will be providing Camtasia trainings all summer. So also, if you go to the ITS website and you click on the ITS training calendar, we list ongoing trainings every single week for the rest of the summer. So you can go in and you can sign up for Camtasia training. So that's a powerful video editing tool. Also, we have Relay, which the name was just changed to Nomia. So I'm putting both down. So don't get confused if you hear about Nomia. It's simply Relay, which is our video repository tool. Now, something I want to point out that is incredibly important for people to be aware of is in Sakai, what we saw were a lot of faculty uploading, for example, an annotated PowerPoint with audio added, which is lovely. It's wonderful. I think that's great to have audio and notes all annotated in along with the PowerPoint presentation. That's far more interesting and engaging to students. The problem is people were uploading those full uncompressed files to Sakai, or they were uploading full video files that were uncompressed, or big PDFs or large images that were uncompressed. And every time you upload an uncompressed media type, be it a file, image, photo, or video, etc., audio, any kind of media, when you upload it and it's uncompressed, it sucks up the server space and it slows down how fast the system will work. And it costs a lot of money to expand the speed and the space of the server. So I just really wanted to share this during the session, that it's important that you host all your files at what we call repositories. Repository, so Relay or Nomia is a video repository. You host your video there and then you embed the code to stream it inside your class. So students don't need to leave your classroom in order to view the video. They're still inside your class, right? And they can view the video within the class by using the embed code. And we can show you how to do that, how to embed that video. But you host the video at Relay, not inside the class. You host it there so that Relay then compresses it for you and streams it for you. Now, streaming is also important because it's not just about the server space we're saving in the learning management system. It's also about student access. So students who are at home on slower bandwidth or Wi-Fi and who have multiple people in the house using that bandwidth or the Wi-Fi, their little brother's playing a video game, their sister's on Netflix, that even slows down their bandwidth even more. So if you have a large uncompressed video that you have given students, then if they're on those limited bandwidth situations, they will not be able to view it or download it. So in order to increase student access and availability of those learning resources, you want to use repositories. So Relay is a great video repository. Also inside of Office 365, we have Stream. It's another video repository with, if you prefer Office 365 tools, you can use Stream. You can even use YouTube, and you can make the videos, you can set them to be unlisted so they're not public. So all three of those are great video repositories, and all of them give you embed codes so you can embed the video right inside your classroom. You're not making the student go anywhere else to see it. They're still going to see it in your learning management class, but it's being streamed. So it's easier for them to view, and it doesn't use up the space. Screencast-O-Matic is a screencasting tool. I use it all the time. I love it. It's super easy. Relay is also a screencasting tool, so you can screencast things that you do on your desktop if you're doing trainings or tutorials for students. Those are great tools to use to make little training or tutorial videos. And as far as video goes, a lot of people really like VoiceThread as well, because you can do, basically it's interactive video discussions versus text-based discussions inside of the classroom. Now, all these tools can be used to make video lectures, tutorials, training videos. You can do guest lectures. You can do all kinds of amazing resources. We do, I'm going to answer some questions over here in the chat real quick. Helpful to get instructions on how to embed Relay video lectures into Brightspace. Absolutely. We have training, or you can submit also a service desk training on how do you embed not only video, but files, PowerPoints from Google. Like, how do you stream your files from your Google Drive? How do you stream your files from Office 365? And in fact, today, there's several sessions on how to use those tools and how to stream all your files into the class. So the nice thing about that is if you leave all your PowerPoint files that you want students to have, PDFs that you made, other like guides and tutorials, videos on these other repositories, be that Google Drive, be that Relay, be that Office 365, YouTube Stream, etc., and then you just embed them all in your class and stream them inside your class in Brightspace. For students, it is still a seamless learning experience. They're still going to get those things only in Brightspace. They don't have to go anywhere else to view it. But those items are not hosted or stored within Brightspace. They're just embedded there. They're stored in your Google Drive. The nice thing is as you switch classes or learning management systems, all those files are still in your repositories. Not like right now, everyone stored everything in Sakai. They have to go to Sakai and migrate out all their content that they used, all their files, videos, everything, right? If you leave these in repositories, you never have to do that. And you just embed them in your classes. Let me look at a few more questions here. Camtasia is not a repository. Camtasia is a very powerful video editing tool. So you would take, for example, Relay or Screencast-O-Matic, you would record your video lecture that you were making. Then you might use, you don't have to, you can also edit within Relay or Screencast-O-Matic or even YouTube, have minor, small editing options. But if you wanted a more powerful editing experience, you could then open that video you had made in Camtasia, and you would use Camtasia to add in all kinds of exciting things. I mean, flow from one screen to another, blacking in, blacking out, you know, all kinds of text, stuff like that. Zooming. Camtasia would allow you to kind of go to the next level, but it's not required. Relay and Brightspace. You can use Relay in Brightspace. It is integrated. I see another question. Can you record your video on Camtasia and store it on Relay? Absolutely. Yes, you can. It would be helpful to see short samples and images of these. I agree. Today, we only have a 30-minute session plus like 10 to 15 minutes for questions. So I can't go into training you guys on all these different tools. We just don't have time in this session. However, there are other sessions today on learning how to use these tools. There is a Camtasia session at Tech Day. There's a Snagit session at Tech Day. There's a Relay session at Tech Day, etc. So there are other sessions dedicated just to learning how to use those tools if they interest you. This is an overview of all the things available to you for flipped learning. Those sessions then get into the nitty-gritty detail of the technology side of using those tools. We will be running more tech days. Right now, we have another tech day scheduled for August 13th, and we may try to run one in July, all to give you guys ample and many opportunities to go to as many of these trainings as you need to this summer. All right, I don't see any more questions in the chat box. Oh wait, there's one more. You can record videos in Relay. Yes, you can. You can screen share. You can record in there. You can edit. You can do everything right within Relay if you want to. Camtasia is sort of like the next level if you want really advanced editing capabilities, but it isn't required. In proper preparation for hybrid learning, how much time do you recommend for preparing good video content? That depends. I will say you don't want your videos to be longer than 10 minutes. So we recommend as a best practice that people break their lectures down into about 10 minutes, give or take. People just aren't going to sit for more than 10 minutes at a time. You wouldn't either. You trust me, research shows your focus is lost at about 12 to 15 minutes, you're no longer paying attention. And that's why even in face-to-face, they tell instructors that best practice is to break up the lecture with mini exercises or questions, right? You wouldn't lecture straight for an hour either. You break it up to keep them engaged, to keep their attention. You do the same with video lectures. So we recommend as a best practice, you break up whatever lecture you want to do, break it into subtopics, and you maybe give or take 10-minute videos on each of those subtopics. And then maybe have them do other stuff in between. Now, what I've now put on the screen here is interactive. So in Relay, in Camtasia, and at Edpuzzle, those are the 3 tools I'm listing here. You can also insert little questions into the videos you make. So you can have 2 minutes of video, and then you can insert a question that asks them a sort of, a question for thinking about this or applying the knowledge or kind of food for thought or whatever you want to do to break up that lecture that video lecture that you're creating for those students. So you can add interactivity with Relay, Camtasia, Edpuzzle. All those tools will allow you to add interactivity into that video, which makes it even that much more engaging. Quizlet is great. I love Quizlet. And ThingLink. A lot of people don't know about ThingLink. You can go to ThingLink. You can set up a free educational account, and you can make these really cool interactive images. So what I did with ThingLink when I taught environmental science is, for example, in environmental science, we learn about nutrient cycles out in ecology. So we might learn about the water cycle. So I took an image of a water cycle, but then I made it interactive. I added these hot spots around the image with links to videos about various topics, links to websites, links to information, definitions. It's this interactive image. So it takes a graphic and it kind of like puts it on cocaine. It makes it this really cool graphic that's got all these interactive features within it. And then it has embed links. So you can embed it right into your Brightspace course. So students have this interactive graphic or flow chart or whatever visual you want to create for them right inside of your Brightspace. You can use Top Hat in Brightspace. It has been integrated in the system and we can help you with that. If you need help, again, submit a service desk ticket on any of these and say, I need help doing X. And I assure you that ticket will get routed to the right person who's an expert in it. We will set up a time with you, convenient with your schedule, and give you all the support you need to do any of this. Digital posters now I want to talk about. Digital posters are a great thing to have students do in flipped learning, having them working on content or information outside of the classroom so that, again, you're saving that limited face-to-face time for those interactive in-person things that you want to do. I had students when I taught, I've taught instructional design now at one university online. And I have the students make infographics related to supporting, how do you support online instruction? What are the different things? Or I have them do infographics based on, for example, what is the instructional design process? What are the steps? So people can go make digital posters either for presenting information or for clarifying steps or procedures or processes. And it's this graphic way for them to show proof of their knowledge. So it's much more interesting for them. It's more fun, right, than writing an essay or a paper. It still allows them to show proof of skill competency that they understand that topic, because they had to go through and make a graphic that showed the steps or showed the process or showed all the various parts of whatever it is you're asking them to understand. And it's this graphic, it's more interesting for them to just share. I would have my students share their infographics, their video presentations, or their digital posters in a discussion forum. So I would have them make one on the topic, and then I would have them share that in the discussion forum. And then I knew they had studied the content before they would, before I might do other work with them. If you had them do this work in advance of coming to face-to-face, you would know that they had studied it. And this is great, like flipped learning. Have them do this before they arrive. And then in the class, you do other interactive things with them. Let's see if there's any questions. Nope, no questions. So I'm going to move on. Collaboration. So in flipped learning, you'll have students do a lot of collaborative things together, perhaps outside of class. This may be to work on projects. This may be to work on posters. This may be to work on a collaborative paper or research or some other design, whatever it is you're having them do, a project, a plan, a design, anything, posters, they can do this. So Google Apps for Education, obviously we all know, has great collaboration tools that students can use, sharing of documents, sharing of presentations, multiple people working on things together. Office 365 has all the exact same features, capabilities, and tools as well. So really both are available to students. We have so many tools for them, and you can tell them to use whatever they're most comfortable with and want to use, and that's going to suit their needs. Finally, I just want to talk about the learning management system. So we're shifting from Sakai to Brightspace, and the learning management system, Brightspace, is this very powerful tool for you to host all the flipped learning in one place. And so we want to remember, we want to keep it easy on students. They don't want to have to go to 5 different places in this class to find their learning materials, and 5 different places in that class to find their learning materials, and to remember logins and passwords. So if you host everything inside of your course shell, inside of Brightspace for them, they only have to go to one place to get everything. So like I said, you can embed all these tools in your course, even if they're stored elsewhere. If your videos are stored at the video repository, Nomia or YouTube or Stream, you can embed the videos in your class. Students don't have to go to those places to see them. They still see them in your class. If you can have files in Google or Office 365 and you can actually embed them in your course from those tools, it's hosted over there, but the students see it inside your class. It's streamed. It's basically media streaming into your class. You organize everything really well. And if you guys, ATL has amazing instructional design and design training and courses they're doing all summer too. And you can work with us on like tools and what tools and making all your media with our tools. And then you can go to them and they're going to help you design these amazing courses that then organize all those learning materials for various modules and topics throughout your course into these great online learning modules for students. So maybe week one, whatever you're covering, you have all the part they do online in that module in Brightspace, right? Maybe even have a self-assessment quiz and you give them video lectures and you give them, you know, an infographic and graphics or flowcharts or PowerPoints, whatever you want them to have, and they study, and maybe you have them do a quiz in there before they come to class. It's like do the day before so you know that they actually looked at the materials. I really recommend quizzes and flipped learning to force them to look at the materials before they come to your in-person class time. Make them graded so that you know they're looking at that stuff before they arrive for sure. And then you'd use their in-class time, right, for those interactive, supportive things you want to do face-to-face. So the learning management system is a powerful place. It's a one-stop shop as far as students concerned, and our team in ATL can help you organize everything in there so that students can go in and have access in an organized way to everything they need for that flipped learning. So I now just want to open it up to questions people have. You can share some thoughts you have, share a situation you have, and maybe I can make suggestions about technology or tools or what you might use. You're welcome to unmute yourself and just speak if you like, or you can put it into the chat window as well. How do you flip a class of 150 students? I can give you an example of a flip class I took when I was doing my bachelor's, which was ages ago. This was in the 90s. So it was a long time ago, and it was before learning management systems even existed. And so it would be even so much easier now. It was an evolutionary biology course, and the instructor gave us access to VHS tapes in the library of videos, video lectures that he had recorded of himself and put on VHS. So we had to go to the library and we had to watch those lectures, and then we had to fill out some questions and do some assignment sheets he had given us, answering questions related to those. And when we arrived at the in-person lecture, which was 250 people, this was at University of Washington. It was a huge lecture hall. And when we arrived, he gave us all a quiz. We had TAs, so the TAs collected our quizzes. So it was quizzing us immediately. And I really recommend quizzes. Quiz them on the information prior to when you meet them. That will force them to actually go look at those materials and study those materials before you do the in-person time. Then he divided the class up, 250 people, into groups with the TAs, and individually we were all run on various activities. In-group activities, we did role plays some weeks, we did application of knowledge in other weeks, sometimes we did lab type work. So now my question is whether you have TAs with that class of 150 or you're the sole person in charge. And that's what I would like to know, because then that would adjust some of the suggestions I might make to you. Sole person. Wow, let me just say, I would lose my mind, and I'm really impressed if you can do that. Okay, in that case, I would put all the lecture videos online, a bunch of materials, pre-test them, pre-quiz them, have them maybe do assignments or projects, and then you could still do interactive group work in the class. You could break them up into groups and give them group activities to do with each other during class time, and then you're able to rove around the room between the groups and offer support as they need it if it's a complex task or activity or some kind of applied learning, like really applying what they've been learning to some novel case study, for example. But then you're available to help them real time. You walk around to the groups and you can kind of offer that in-person help during the classroom time then. Any other questions? So Allison just put in the chat box that that's something she does with the large classes. They do activities outside of class, and then during class they do small group work that she can then just rove around and help them on the spot. Cheating on quizzes, yeah, plagiarism is a problem. I will say I have a slightly different view than other people on quizzes and plagiarism, and I'll share it, and you can take it or leave it. But I've been teaching online since 2005, and I realized my fight against plagiarism was ridiculous. I was never going to win, especially with technology being as ubiquitous as it is. So I started changing how I design things. So for example, I make sure I design written assignments and discussion questions, etc., to be incredibly personalized. Maybe I have them take a photo of something in their home, or I have them talk about something in their job or their own situations or their own environment, things like this. So it's so personalized, they can't really cheat, right? Which is also makes it more personalized for them. It's a more interesting education to my students because it's something applied to their own life. Now on quizzes, they're gonna cheat. So I decided to make all the quizzes open book, and I don't care if you work with each other. And you know, having done I did my bachelor's at University of Washington, and it was a bachelor's of science in botany and ecology. And a lot of my initial core courses were pre-med courses. So they were the courses that all the pre-med students at the University of Washington were going through too, say biology 201, 202, 203, chemistry 201, 202, you know, organic chemistry. There's all the pre-meds were in there, and they were incredibly difficult courses to get through. They had made them hard on purpose to weed out pre-med students. And the rest of us were just sort of waving our hands going, we don't want to be pre-med. We just want to get through. We were allowed to work in groups, and we often worked in groups. And I found that group learning is an incredibly effective way to learn. Me discussing things with my group members, I learned a lot from chatting with them and discussing it and getting answers to assignments that we all did together in group work. So my suggestion is you just, if you can't beat it, join them kind of thing. Say, okay, I don't care if it's open book. I don't care if you work in groups on these. Put them in groups and say, I want you to work on these together. Let them help each other. Let them discuss it. Make those quizzes interactive that they do together. And if you really, really need to test something that's incredibly essential, that you want to make sure that they haven't cheated, then use that for the in-person time. Have them do online learning and lectures prior. Give them all their lectures. Then do the quiz when they sit down in the classroom with you. This is flipped learning. You do have classroom time. Give them a quiz the second they sit down that you do in person. You know they're not cheating. You know they had to study in order to pass it. And that's another way that you could avoid that. Being that it's hybrid and you have in person as well as online, you can shift what you do when based on what will fit your particular needs. Another question, how do you create in-class group work with social distancing? That is definitely going to be a challenge in the fall. That's a great question that I actually hadn't thought about in terms of it. You could have them sit several feet apart. You could have really small groups. I'm not sure what the scenarios are going to be on campus. I have heard scenarios where only half the students will be in class, the other half are online. So you may have your laptop set up with a Zoom session running for the people who are online while doing the in-person lecture at the same time. In the Zoom room, it would be easy. You put them into the breakouts. We're all getting Zoom licenses within the next couple of weeks. We just got the contract yesterday, so everybody's going to have a pro Zoom license by the end of June, I believe. And so you can do breakout rooms, so you could do it there. The other thing in the classroom, maybe have the group sitting far apart, maybe have those people with masks. These are great questions that I'm not 100% sure how to answer. And I think those are great discussions we should have with administration about how we might do that. If you use group quizzes, would you grade these? Yeah, I've always graded them. I did auto grading, multiple choice. I just let the learning management system grade them. And frankly, I didn't care if they used a book. If they went through that quiz with their book to answer it, I didn't care. At least I knew they had looked at the book and those materials prior to doing other work with me. You know, for me, like I said, I knew I couldn't control who was cheating, so I decided to just make it open book, work with others. And as long as they were submitting it, you know, and there's just some things you can't control, so there's no point trying, really. Community announcement came out. Oh, about Zoom. Yeah, they're working hard in ITS to get that all to you guys as soon as possible. Another question, how many people will be allowed in our Zoom contract? How many people? Well, everybody, all students and faculty will have a Zoom account. I believe the Zoom sessions will be up to 100 people. Unless you have very large classes, we have a few licenses for people who need 500 per session and a few for 1,000, and those will be assigned to the people who need them. For everyone with class sizes who are smaller, they would be up to 100 access. Next question, updates from our dean's office. 30 to 50% of usual capacity. Yeah, that was my understanding too. So, you know, you could spread people out, have very small groups to try and deal with social distancing. How do you combine auto grading in the LMS with good personalizations that you suggested? Well, the nice thing is that you can just auto grade to make sure. I frankly used quizzing in my learning management system in my classes to make sure they had looked at a video, for example, to make sure they had looked at the book. For me, it was more of I used it as a regulating feature, and then I used projects. I did a lot of project-based learning. I had them do videos, and that's what I did real testing on, right? The quiz was just some questions from the book, questions from the middle of a video I gave them to make sure they had to watch the video to get the answer to that question. I mean, you know, as someone in the group had to, and they were sharing that information with each other. I used quizzes as regulation of making sure they looked at learning materials, and I let it all be auto-graded. Then what I did for real assessment of their skills and competency, I didn't use quizzes. Like you said, they could cheat, and how are you going to catch them? It's all online. I didn't even bother stressing myself about it. I used video and other types of projects for real competency of their learning. If someone does a video of themselves at a chalkboard or a whiteboard discussing a concept, I know they know it. I know they learned it. There's no way they could cheat that, right? They had to understand it enough to stand there and show it in a video. If they make a video presentation about something, they had to understand it and look at the materials to do that. There's a lot of ways you can use technology with the students for them to show proof of their competency and learning that they can't possibly cheat on. So those are my recommendations in online learning, is to use those tools to your benefit. Any other questions? All right, so I don't see any other questions coming in. So this was a quick introduction to what is flipped learning, all the tools you could use, approaches. And again, it helps me if you ever want, like I said, submit a service desk ticket and say you want to meet and have a consultation, and let's sit down, let's look at your syllabus, let's look at an activity or lesson planner, and I can help you. I can really help you make suggestions like use this tool in this way or that tool to meet this particular need in your classroom. These are general suggestions and ideas, but I know that each of your classrooms are unique, your students are unique, and your needs are unique. So we're happy, all of us in our team, to consult with you at any time and to give you all the support you need to make this happen by fall term. So thank you very much for coming to the training. We'll be emailing everyone who attended with links to our videos. We're recording a lot of these sessions, and we'll send all our links and information out to everyone later. Someone responded about quizzes in the chat. That's a great suggestion. I love it. Thank you for attending, everyone.